All right, let's go to Waco, Texas, and let's go talk about the Baylor Bears. They saved Dave Aranda's job last year with the 6-game win streak to close out the regular season. It was not looking good before that. Started 2-4, really looked listless in a lot of those games, and the quarterback that we were not expecting to lead the Bears, Sawyer Robertson, took over and really led the Bears down that stretch and was really a revelation for that offense. It was something that we were just looking for a spark for several years, it felt like, in Waco. And Sawyer Robertson finally provided that along with some other really good weapons. Mitch, this offense is loaded to come back this year. They're bringing back everybody. We can list out the names, but it feels like they're just picking up where they left off.
Man, it really does. You talk about Sawyer Robertson coming back at quarterback. You talk about Bryson Washington and Dawson Pendergast coming back at the running back position. That's over 1,700 yards of ground game production coming back. And then you've got their top two pass catchers are back. Kobe Prentice transfers in from Alabama. Taz Williams, a 4-star commit, joins the wide receiving core out of Red Oak, Texas. They've got 4 returning starters up front. And man, as I was writing their preview, I was already high on Baylor just from doing the cursory research and feeling the momentum of that program, having connections there from working in the NIL scene in Waco. And then you start to actually do the deep dive, and it's like, dude, like this team could easily win 10, 11 games, and it would make perfect sense, which is crazy considering we came into last year threatening Aranda's job security. He was one of the betting favorites to be the first one fired in season. They started 2-4. It felt like they had no identity. The defense couldn't stop anything. The offense really struggled to get going, especially in like that Utah game where they only scored 12 points. It didn't feel good. And then Sawyer Robertson comes in and saves the season in Lubbock, in his hometown, against the Red Raider team that he wanted a scholarship from. And from that moment on, the Baylor Bears were off and running. They win their final 6 games, and I know they lost to LSU, but it just feels like a night and day transformation of the program. And I don't know that there are all that many in recent history that have been able to make that shift in the middle of a season where you go from dead in the water, no future, how on earth are they going to survive in modern college football, to, yeah, hey man, like they could win the Big 12 championship right now.
Yeah, they come home from Ames after losing 43-21, and you're just thinking, yeah, this is it. Like, we're just waiting on the ESPN notification. And I always talk about on this show how once you're on the hot seat, it's incredibly difficult to sustain getting off. Like, once your fan base has kind of given up on you, or once the narrative has shifted on you in that way, it's really hard to get off that hot seat and really prove that you can have sustained success. But I mean, yes, the schedule lightened up down the stretch, but they still beat some good teams. They beat Texas Tech. They beat TCU. They won the Texas State Championship in the Big 12, actually. They completed the trifecta by beating Houston. But,
yeah,
I mean, yeah, we just don't see what we saw. So it's hard to not get excited about Baylor coming into this year. You flip over to the other side of the ball. They lost some dudes up front. They're kind of going through some transition there, but I like the pass rush duo of Jackie Marshall Jr. and Devontae Tizino.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got a bona fide star at linebacker in Keaton Thomas. He's a playmaker and making plays both against the run and against the pass. So, yeah, as you look at that defense, I guess the only question is maybe the secondary. But what do you see as the question mark on that side of the ball?
Yeah, if there's one position group that it's go prove it, it's the secondary, just mostly because that secondary has been so bad over the last couple of years. The secondary, without a doubt, has been the thing holding this team back. They were 94th in pass defense last season. It was not good. But they go to the portal and they get Calvin Simpson Hunt, a local kid from Waxahachie who originally was actually committed to Texas Tech. And then everybody found him when he finally got a star designation, and he ended up going to Ohio State. Didn't really play there. So he transfers down to Waco, and he's got the size and the speed to be a difference maker at corner for the Bears. They get a couple of Big Ten guys. Devin Turner comes down from Northwestern to play safety, and then Tyler Turner, I don't think any relation, comes over from Oregon. You mentioned the linebackers, and specifically you mentioned their star, Keaton Thomas, who had a historic season at Baylor. I think like 114 tackles. He was just a menace in the middle of that Baylor defense. he gets help this year, and they've got an edge rusher in Amarian Winston from Oregon who should be a terror off the edge. Trayvon Barnes was an all Sun Belt player at FIU last year. He's in the linebacking core. And then Phoenix Jackson, who I believe started at Auburn and then transferred out to Fresno, spent last year playing for the Bulldogs and now comes back to Texas to play for Baylor. So they did a really good job, I think, loading up where they had some holes, they had some departures, and go and get a guy from Texas A&M and Tamanu Pepe, I think is how you say his name. Big human, large
400
human.
pounds, right?
Yeah, that's going to play defensive tackle for them. Samu Tamanu Pepe, I think is how you say his name. Apologies on the first try. So to me, it felt like the biggest linchpin of all of this, honestly, Trey, was them getting on board with NIL. And, I've talked about this in our other Big 12 episodes. They were so staunchly opposed to NIL and doing anything that resembled bringing players in for anything other than the love of the game and the love of Waco, right? Like there was nothing other outside of their affection for the gold domes on campus that was going to get them to recruit players. And now they've
not
made
a lot of 5-stars that love Shiplap and Chip and Joanna.
Nice weekend spot, I guess, to take the misses. But yeah, like if you want to win a championship, Waco had not been an option for the last several years, outside of 2021. Obviously, I'm not forgetting that, but it definitely
pre-NIL though. That was the end of the pre-NIL era.
And yeah, exactly. And so to see them fall off as much as they did, and then to make this comeback and to be wearing the shirts out at practice, we pay players. It's been such a fascinating watch from afar. And, honestly, I'm excited for them. There's a lot of really good people behind the scenes that have put in a ton of work and a ton of effort to make Baylor a professional style organization, to have a, general manager helping run things over there, and, to get football back front and center. And I think they're going to be a hell of a football team this year. I think the talent stands out. I'm excited for my Baylor friends.
The only thing I'm tempering my expectations is when you look at their schedule, because it is one of the more difficult ones in the Big 12.
It's tricky.
That start, man. The first 6 games of the season without a bye week, they're going to play some bona fide, not just conference contenders, but playoff contenders, and maybe even one of the biggest dark horses in the whole country in the Auburn Tigers week 1 on a Friday night. I've seen people calling that the Expectations Bowl against Auburn, and I love that designation. I would love to find a way for us to get in the building for that one. We'll see what we can do. That would be really cool on a Friday night to open the season. But right after that, we will be in the building when they go to SMU. And that's a tricky road game. SMU might be taking a step back this year a little bit from their high watermark last year, but that's going to be a really difficult game for Baylor. They host Samford. I'm not going to lie. I read that as Stanford the first time I was looking at the schedule. I was like, what are they doing with it? Why are they scheduling 3 Power 5 competitions in the non-conference? But it is Samford.
Yeah, well, to that point, they are one of only 2 teams in the country that have scheduled 11 Power 4 opponents this season. Do you know who the other one is?
Oh, I do not off the top of my head.
They'll play them this year, the TCU Horned Frogs.
Okay, there you go. TCU playing SMU and who's the other one? Do you know off the top of your head?
I'll look.
Okay. That not relevant. We talked about TCU last time, but
and SMU
North Carolina. They're playing North Carolina on Monday night.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. So back to Baylor. Yes, they are playing 11 Power Conference games. I thought they were playing 12 when I read it the first time, but it's Samford FCS. Anyways,
Abilene Christian is the only non-power team that TCU plays.
Gotcha. Okay, so we're hooking up the FCS schools. That's great. Help funding their athletic departments. Yeah, so to open conference play, though, they host Arizona State. They go to Stillwater. I know we don't know what Oklahoma State's going to be, but that's always a tricky place to play. And they come back home to play Kansas State. That could legitimately be 2 games against the top 3 or 4 in the conference, and then maybe the toughest place to play in the conference to open conference play. That's your first 6. So if you can find a way to go 4-2 in that stretch, I think you're doing cartwheels.
Trey, this is maybe my hottest take of the Big 12 preview, certainly so far and probably total. Baylor will be 5-0 when they host Kansas State.
Wow. All right. So they're knocking off Auburn week 1.
They are.
They're going to the Ford, up by 35 and 75, I guess, going through some interchanges, but going to the Ford and knocking off SMU and beating Arizona State, last year's Big 12 champions.
Crucially knocking off Arizona State at home. I don't know what I'm feeling. Maybe it's the Brazos coursing through my veins, but yeah, I'm going to take Baylor to be 5-0 when they host Kansas State. That's as far as I'm willing to go right now, but 5-0 I think is hot enough.
Man, yeah. I mean, if they do that, if they're 5-0, they're top 10 in the country.
Sure.
Easily. Going into that matchup against Kansas State, it does soften up after Kansas State a little bit. It's a tough back-to-back road trip after the bye at TCU, at Cincinnati, before they host UCF. And they close out with Utah, at Arizona, and Houston. It's tough. Like, I could honestly see it being, I don't think they'll start 2-4 like they did last year, but I could see a long winning streak at the end of the year just because the schedule kind of softens up. I'm not quite to 5-0, starting 5-0. I think they'll probably be, I think 4-2 after the first 6 is a good goal, and you're setting yourselves up for a big run at the end of the year if you can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could then find a way to go undefeated down the back stretch and go 6-0, you're probably in Arlington. So great goal.
Yeah, I mean, this is another team just like Kansas State. I feel like it's a 10-2 roster. I'm not going to pick anybody in the Big 12 to go more than 10-2 just because it's crazy. And I have been burned by that many a time on this show, picking greater than 10-2. But yeah, maybe a 7-5, 8-4 if everything goes, if there's a rough start or if something goes awry along the way. I was shocked that the over-under was 7.5 and that the under was getting so much action. That feels like maybe a betting public that doesn't remember what Baylor did down the stretch last year.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be an awakening, I think, for a lot of people who are not. I think you're going to see a lot of Shaq memes that I wasn't familiar with your game headed towards Waco when Baylor has a good season.
It's going to be a revival on the Brazos this year. And
hallelujah.
We're here for it. All right, we got 2 more teams to talk about. The other end of a big rivalry that we are not getting this year. Again, another one that the Big 12 schedule
not in regulation. Not in the regulation.
Okay, maybe teasing something there for Mitch when we make some predictions here in a little bit.